Look, I want to jump right into it. I'm here to start off to talk about Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., my mayor. Has done a phenomenal job in terms of comforting our city, letting our residents know what's taking place, what's going on. Some people weren't even paying attention to the news. They were just, either doing homeschool with their kid, right? They're on the computer, they're trying to figure the work out. They wasn't looking at the news. They didn't see everything that was going on. And when they did, they were, like myself, overwhelmed, right? Overwhelmed that their daughter or their son or someone was out in the streets moving around. Everyone's calling them, be safe, come home. People are calling from out of town. She was there. We hear that the Capitol Police was missing in action. Normally there's a press conference, everyone stands together. When you saw the press conference, it was just Mayor Bowser. Now we know why, because we just learned that the U.S. Capitol Police Chief was terminated. So I want to thank Mayor Bowser because she stood there, by herself with her team. And I have all the confidence in the new police chief, Chief Conti of the District of Columbia. Great guy. And they know exactly what they're doing, but it wasn't their fault when this took place. What are you hearing out there?
Well, absolutely. First off, being here on the Hill since 1992 as a full-time staffer, I can say that the presence of the U.S. Capitol Police has always been very essential. Even before the days when you could just come in, drive up onto the Capitol campus out front of the House and Senate building, you walk up the steps to meet your rep or anything. You didn't need any ID to come in. That time, if you had staff ID, you used that, but you could come right on in. Visitors could come. It was an open campus into the Congress itself. So first of it, so it's always been that kind of atmosphere up here. 9/11 changed all that, obviously. But I want to commend our mayor. You said you're our mayor, Mayor Bowser and her team, and think that, it was very, with the memorandum of understanding, which is something between the U.S. Capitol Police and the District of Columbia Metropolitan Police, that, they support each other and that who has jurisdiction. The Capitol is obviously federal grounds, federal lands, and then the mayor has responsible for the residential area and commercial area of the city. But you also are supported by the FBI, Homeland Security, Park Police, Protective Services, all of these entities in here. And now the U.S. Capitol Police also got absorbed into the Supreme Court and the Library of Congress. So their numbers grew. So they're up about a 3,500 force right now. And that's the situation up here. As far as the now former police chief, I only met him once, but I knew some of the more older previous year's police chiefs and had a little more direct. Terrence Gaynor was up here, was an excellent police chief when he was here, as well as Kim Dine, who was the last police chief before this one, the U.S. Capitol. So the relationships are built in, and staff gets to know who these officers are. But again, since 9/11, things changed. But you really can't move around that Capitol campus, especially when the president or vice president's here. You just can't do that.
Well, hold on. You can't do it unless you're Trump supporters, and somehow everyone seems to do it. But I want to jump right into Armstrong Williams, because Armstrong Williams, he has a show, and he was on earlier, and he was basically talking about a sense of what was going on, what was taking place. We all kind of follow him. We know what's going on. I just happened to be paying attention today, right? So I paid attention because I wanted to hear what he had to say. Let me show you what he had to say, because it was
true patriots. It's so unfortunate when I see these demonizing and unfair headlines and how the description of the people that were out yesterday, because the majority were not on the steps of on the Capitol.
Another person said, "I'm glad they sat on Pelosi's chair. She thinks she's God, and someone sat on her throne." LOL.
As long as you're willing to pay a price for sitting on that throne. Understand that. As long as you're willing to suffer the consequences when you do that. From what I reread today, there's nothing really in process to press charges against them. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, this is the rhetoric that we're talking about. Look, I know Armstrong Williams. We disagree on a number of different things. Some things we agree on. But this right here, this type of rhetoric, just listen to what he said. He said, as long as you're willing to pay the price to sit on the throne, then it's okay. I mean, that's how and that's what these people did. They thought it was worth it to just mobster in here, terrorize, threaten, the lives of congressmen, staffers, everyone. And they were willing to pay the price. And it doesn't look like they really paid a price, right? It looks like, some of them are home right now and they're showing their friends. They're taking selfies. I mean, what is your thoughts on Armstrong Williams' comment where he says at the end, he says he didn't see anything that warrant, any of them being arrested. I mean, that right there is, I don't know a black person in America that can look at what we saw and witness what we saw and say that they didn't see anything at all that actually these people should be held accountable for, they could be charged for.
Well, for one thing, I got to say this. I feel sorry for you if there's anything that you can agree with him on, number one. I feel sorry for you, Mr. Chair. Number two, he couldn't have been in the Capitol. It is still very much an active crime scene. So unless you have a congressional staff ID and you are cleared to actually be in the building because the building was never back open to the public, you wouldn't be inside walking around to see anything. That's number two. And number three, I don't even know why he's worthy for you to even hear what he said. This is who gave us what we have as this problem now. And yes, I say that. He is the one masterminding sending Trump out to Michigan to the black church where he read about 2 Corinthians. I mean, so let's just call him for who it is. It's the same one who had credibility issues when he supposedly believed in the choice in education so much, but I wanted to get paid on the side to do so. Yes, I said it. And yes, you can come see me if you choose. Please do. All right, so I'm just about right there. So I don't pay this ignorance no attention. I think back to what Malcolm X said, that when you find a black man that says something, they always go around and find somebody else who tries to offset what the other man has said as to undermine him. So I don't put any validity and credibility to what he said. I don't. Anyway, it's ridiculous. And what he said was foolish and has no credibility. And for him to say he doesn't see it, I would say the U.S. Capitol Police and the FBI ought to look at him at aiding and abetting, because if he knew and was pushing and thought, I didn't see nothing wrong, but I guess it was all right as long as you were, they wouldn't do anything in Portland. They wouldn't do anything in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I don't see anything wrong. Yeah, you'll never see anything wrong when it's the other side. We are Americans, and we got to call wrong, wrong, and right, right. He votes in some party. It ain't in my party. Let me just tell you that. And so I am so tired of people trying to leech on to say, I'm this, I'm Mr. Everything, but you don't have a conscience or a backbone for anything that's significant for this country. And yes, I said it.
And yes, you said it. Look, we got Brian Summers. He's definitely in the studio with us. Clearly a Republican, has over 25 years on the Hill as a staffer, clearly understands the Senate. They call him the mini historian up there. Hey, Brian, what bothered me the most is to sit there and see all the people watching Armstrong Williams and all the people who sat there and said, it was okay. He said that there was no guns inside the Capitol, which clearly reports something totally different. You were there. You were inside. Did you see anyone with guns?
Weapons. I saw weapons as they were coming up the hill. Those were in bags. Those were on poles. Those that had hatchets. Those that had tire irons. Weapons. And then the FBI has said they have arrested 4 people who had weapons on them in the Capitol. In the Capitol. This was not yesterday. This was today. They arrested them and made charges against 4 different individuals with weapons that they got inside the District of Columbia because they don't live here, but they managed to be able to get them in anyway. Nobody didn't stop them on the roads. I don't know, maybe they walked by Armstrong's neighborhood. But I mean, it just makes no sense. So this is our FBI that we pay taxes to support, who are doing their job, and they've arrested these terrorists. And yes, I call them terrorists. I say that because anytime insurrection against the United States government, you're a terrorist. If they had their way, we wouldn't be here right now. This is no different than what happened in 1861, literally, when they fired on Fort Sumter. Okay, this is no different. And so people ought to quit sugarcoating this thing and call it for what it was. I can tell you, we are a nation of laws. We teach our kids the 10 Commandments to behave themselves. And you can have disagreements, but it should not live to where everybody's going to be Julius Caesar and going to go around and take out everybody they don't like. I mean, come on.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
So it's clear. A couple of things that are clear to me. One, I just wanted to put that out there because that's someone texted me and it was like, I was watching Armstrong Williams and he has a different story. He was right there. He was live on the scene. And I said, well, hold up. I talked to Brian Summers. He was in the building. He was there when all this stuff was going down. We were reporting live right here on Capitol Hill when all of this was going down. He told a whole different story. So I wanted to make sure I put, both sides out there. I will say this. Armstrong Williams did towards the end of that tape, the end of his presentations, he was, said none of this stuff was wrong. What they did was wrong. Everything was wrong. 98% of the people were calm, and the rest of them wasn't. Of course, we disagree because we saw more than 2% of the people acting a total fool and acting like terrorists up on Capitol Hill. I want to jump.
Chairman, one thing, Mr. Chair, tell him to tell that to the 54 U.S. Capitol police officers who are hospitalized tonight. Okay, that's what I mean. So he can take this foolish that we've been promoting and hearing this garbage for 4 years from people who don't want to admit they live in the United States of America, that we live under a nation of laws and a constitution. Now, I didn't like everything that President Trump did. I didn't like everything that people were saying about Obama, but we have one president. And so to actually support and try to push a coup, this is what this was. This was nothing short of a coup.
Absolutely.
If those 140 people,
absolutely.
If those 140 people in the House and those 6 senators in the Senate had their way, we would not be in the country we're in right now tonight. We would be living under something else. So what were they going to do? So tell me, Mr. Armstrong, what was going to happen when you met Vice President Pence coming around that corner? What were you going to do when you saw Senator Kamala Harris? What were you going to do? What were you going to do to Speaker Pelosi? I don't agree with her on anything other than maybe the day is Thursday. But I was raised better than to harm and try to do physical harm. We can disagree on policy and debate. That's what this country is all about. But I'm not going to take up anything and try to harm. I'm a father. That's not how we are. That's not who we are. The ideas and policy gets debated every day, and then you go back home and you try to come back and win the next day. And you build alliances. You build, alliances with other people to try to get your position over and voted on, and it passes. That's what our country's all about. Sorry.
No, I look, you on the roll. You are definitely on the roll tonight. And clearly, I want to say, I forgot to start by saying happy birthday, because today is your birthday and you took time. I know you was on ABC earlier, then you was on the Black Eagle. And I know you was over at Ben's celebrating your birthday and you're back and you spend time with you, tell your wife hello. But I want to jump right on to the next point. You have even laid out that you believe those senators and those congressmen that voted or sent letters should resign.
Yes, I feel they should be expelled.
That's right. They should be expelled. Why?
They should be because this is nothing short than those who would be in support of what happened in this country in 1861, when there were southern states who decided that they wanted to fire on Sumter, South Carolina, Armstrong's home state, and who wanted to fire on them, and the start of the Civil War, because they disagreed with the idea of slavery, however you take it a look at it. I mean, and so that kind of aggression got them expelled. So where you could not have them at the end of the war. Lincoln didn't want to put the South in prison. He wanted to put them in jail. They fought a war. He said, but you can never go back to the South and hold federal elected office again. That was the beginning of Reconstruction, because you had this white Southerners who returned but could not hold office, could not get elected anything. So African Americans had the right to vote, 13th, 14th Amendment, and freedom. And so that's how the power and the start of Reconstruction came about. And so out of that, that lasted until something which is very, even compared to today, the Hayes-Tilden Act between Rutherford B. Hayes and Tilden. And that presidential election was decided by 3 votes. And there were 3 states that came to Hayes, and told him that we will give you the election if you will pull the federal troops out of the South. And he did it. And that ended Reconstruction, because the old power was now back in place. You came up with all these Jim Crow laws. You came up with all the segregation again. And people would wonder, how did you get freedom after the Civil War with Lincoln and then find ourselves right back in it again? Politics are people who have an idea and a mind like Mr. Armstrong. That's all I'm saying. And so that is how that happened. And when we find ourselves,
you're saying that about your fellow Republican friend.
Well, again, there's some family I got in Ken. So there you go.
Okay. Well, no, thanks for that lesson, because a lot of people are saying, right now the Congress is debating the impeachment. People are talking about invoking the 25th Amendment. And that's what's taking place now. Do you see any of that actually moving forward?
No, and it should. We're 13 days. Let this go. Don't waste time. I'll say this, Mr. Chair. Democrats get really ahead of themselves. See, now they done got the power. They're way ahead, and they want to impeach everything. They want to investigate everything. There are people in the United States of America. Coronavirus should be number 1. Number 2 is to get the economy back and going. But to go after and do this thing and go after the president and want to take him out because they think, let his time end. He'll leave Washington. We have a new president. You'll have a new Congress. They'll have the power. Govern. That's what you should do. Govern and cut all this other nonsense out and keep doing the circus. Stop the circus. Now you want to start the same circus you said you just got off of. And so I'm saying that this makes no sense. Govern. You're in a position. Govern and take it serious. Get your Justice Department together, Mr. Biden. Get your Agriculture Department, Mr. Biden. Get that together. And why in the world would you bring Tom Vilsack back into the Agriculture Secretary? Why? I don't know. Maybe African Americans don't remember Sherry Sherrod.
Well, I know you have a big problem. We'll talk about that in a little while, but I want to go right into this clip right here.
Police hurry to America's House of Representatives in Washington following an attack by 3 Puerto Ricans, including Rafael Miranda, who fired on the senators in the chamber. Fellow gunman Andres Condero and the woman member of the trio Lolita Lebron are hustled away from the menacing crowd. Firing more than 20 rounds from their Luger automatics, the 3 fanatics seriously wounded 5 senators.
So I want to go there. As you can see, 1954, you were talking to me a little bit about it earlier. People keep saying we haven't seen this type of activity since the 1800s or something. I heard that all on the news yesterday. But clearly in 1954, 5 senators were shot. You brought it to my attention. Tell me a little bit about what we just saw.
So in May of 1954, 3 Puerto Rican nationalists came into the Capitol, came upstairs to the gallery area, upstairs, just slightly 2 doors down from where would now be the First Lady's box. And 2 of the gentlemen, the lady walked in first, and then 2 of the gentlemen came in behind her. They had pistols in their briefcases, opened them up. The House of Representatives was in session, and they fired pistols down onto the floor, striking 5 members of Congress as well as a page in the Congress as well, too. And so that was a tragedy that happened in the Congress. Violent bloodshed, gunshots, and this is 1954. There's a bit of history. There's always been something happening. You go all the way back to the War of 1812, 1814. The British came on August 28th. They stormed, came in from Maryland down Bladensburg Road, went in and burned the Capitol on that Sunday evening. The building burned for 3 days. And so they hoisted their flag above our U.S. Capitol. That's the only time we've ever been on foreign soil invaded until 9/11 by a foreign entity, which when the British did that in the War of 1812.
And look, that's a great, history lesson. I wanted to put it out there because we've been hearing so much stuff, and I wanted people to know what took place, why that happened, what was going on in 1954, where 5 senators were actually shot up at the Capitol. All right, I'd like to move straight to talk about Ashley Barrett. Ashley Barrett, who actually was killed up on the Capitol. It clearly, there were a lot of people out there. She was behind a barricade, and she was trying to get through. So reported says she was inside the Capitol. She was trying to get through the barricade to open up the door to let other folks in, right? And clearly people were doing that all over the Capitol, trying to let folks in different doors. What happened with this time was behind the barricade, the vice president was there walking through around in that particular area. Secret Service was there. She comes, busting through, and she gets shot. That was what we've heard so far, been verified only by one source, but that's what people are saying. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think a loss of life anytime is very sad. And I think the situation for our nation and to have this lady in this position is most certainly disturbing. But I think about the fact that she was in an unauthorized area and knew better to have been there. But I think about the innocent Americans in this country, aside with some would say she is fine. But I think about Breonna Taylor. I think about Trayvon Martin. I think about Ahmaud Arbery, people who were killed who did not have weapons and were not committing acts of anything. And so a loss of life, she's clearly somebody's daughter, maybe somebody's wife or a mother. But I think that, I don't dare want to say the consequences of something. Life is too precious. And I just only wish that she had made better choices, which is what sometimes people will say about African Americans and judge us based on the things that we do. I'm just not of that attitude, and that's not it. And, So I just wish that what happened to her, losing her life in that situation. But again, she was somewhere she was not authorized to be, and was clearly warned to exit, to leave, which is not always a benefit that law enforcement gives African Americans. And so I just want to be very mindful of that. So we talk about law and order. Clearly, here is protesters in the Capitol who were not following the commands of law and order. And
I
so
mean, she wasn't
that
following.
should be a perspective that should be shared.
Like, she wasn't following the commands of law. Got it. Clearly, there's others that did the exact same thing. They didn't get shot. Clearly, one of the reasons they're saying, this is what people are saying, that she got shot, is that she was trying to get through an area where the vice president was located, so there was some sort of threat. But what gets me is that, you have a whole Congress that's in session and senators and everyone else is there and people are bum rushing them and no one gets shot. You still want to talk about, Miriam Carey, who drove from Connecticut, wasn't even nowhere near the steps of the Capitol, but was coming through, made a U-turn. We knew everything about her. We knew, her, who she talked to, who her psychiatrist. We knew everything about this woman, and clearly they shot her cold, killed her right there. No issue. She never even made it anywhere near the Capitol. In this instance,
and her child was in the back seat.
I'm sorry?
Her kid was in the back. Her kid was in the back seat.
Yeah, right. Why? So clearly, kids in the back. Right, absolutely. I forgot to say that part. Kids in the back. She gets shot. So I mean, we all know, and I don't want to get deep in this because, I can go hardcore because it's always real talk. It's just a crime that she is dead, and the guy who jumps in, busts the window, sits in the Nancy Pelosi seat, is at home chilling, right? And people walking around with guns, and they know they got guns, and they're still alive, right? Nobody knew where the where were the rubber bullets, right? They ran out of rubber bullets when it comes to people of color. Couldn't find them. Didn't have enough tear gas. Didn't have enough anything, right? Matter of fact, nobody was a threat. They're taking selfies with them. We can go on and on and on for days as it relates to the hypocrisy. And this is the hypocrisy that takes place in this country that is different. One thing that was on full display in the world, not just in the United States, in the world, was the lack of respect that we see for African Americans in this country that is peacefully protesting. Just think about that. Peacefully protesting. Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and people, Black Lives Matter, in the streets peacefully protesting. And they had the United States Army was everywhere, reserves everywhere, everyone was everywhere. Thought it was going to be, that they were going to tear it up. But here we go, where people's lives were lost, police was under attack, senators were under attack, neighborhoods were under attack. People were scared to come out of their house because they felt as though if they came out of their house and Trump people were coming by, that they had a great chance of being harmed physically.
Well, but that's not what happens in Armstrong's America.
Walk me through, you left around 7:30. Walk me through when you were leaving the building. How did you feel when you got outside? What was the atmosphere like? What was you thinking? Were colleagues of yours, everyone leaving at the same time? What was the feeling? No, so
I think the trauma of everything. I mean, again, to actually see people storm, the Northeast Gate right there, the little gate outside on the Senate side, which just so the most friendliest officers you meet are right there, and for years, that's always been a checkpoint for the media and people who had appointments in the Senate. You stop right there before you ever get into the building. And I just think about all of them. I mean, we've got some fine U.S. Capitol police officers and guys I've known all trusted with my own life, and so who do a great job. And I just, but I thought about really even the history of the building, because I've been up here and worked up here, and there's so much history that I would never, ever, ever think that somebody would ever steal, take, or destroy. And nobody's talking about the amount of, they say, oh, some papers got scattered. But no, there were things up on the Senate level, third floor, some desks. Desks go back almost 150 years. statutes, just things that you just don't do. And so, the destruction. If you came to have a message of, you weren't happy because of an election, but then why the destructive behavior? Why have tools for destructive behavior?
Right.
And so it's just, yeah. So
So,
sorry to
so,
get into
so let
that.
me ask you.
But
You was talking about So you were talking about the history of the building, things that I mean, as the former chairman of the Council of the District of Columbia, we would go up onto the Hill and we would meet with the ranking members that had oversight over the District of Columbia and have conversations. And clearly, we would go through that same interest that you're talking about, and we would be, it's still strict, very, very strict. You just can't get through there. No matter who you are, you still can't get through there unless a member comes out. Then you can, but it's very, very strict to get through. We know that. I want to go and talk about the vice president. I like this, the vice president elect. You get to now officially say the vice president elect, the strong black woman who will be making the final decision as a tiebreaker in the United States Senate. I mean, can you imagine how many times she may have to get up there and just boom, be the one to say, this is what we're doing, this is my vote? That is going to be historic. I mean, and I'm pretty sure as a former senator, she is going to do it well, but you can't tell me deep down inside she's not going to be laughing her ass off. I'm pretty sure she's going to make that decision and keep it moving. But I want to go back to where she will be sitting, where her office will be. I want to go back to where the Vice President-elect Harris will be residing when she's up on Capitol Hill. You have a story about the desk that she will have in her office. Tell us a little bit about this desk.
All right. So it's not January 20 yet, but I know as a Democrat, you're very excited to get ahead of yourself, Mr. Chair. So Vice President-elect Senator Harris will be in the ceremony office of the President of the United States there in the Capitol. And the Vice President's office is just off the Senate floor as the Senate President pro temp of the Senate. She has that official title. The desk that she will be occupying there has really interesting history to it. I'm standing behind it, but it is a desk that comes up from 1912. Teddy Roosevelt first had the desk, and it came back to the U.S. Capitol, remained in the Capitol all the way up until Nixon. I'll say Nixon as the vice president. Eisenhower was vice president. Well, when Kennedy became president and Johnson became his vice president, Johnson inherited the desk, stayed there. But when Johnson got ready to go to become president of the United States, he took the desk from the Capitol to the White House. And then when Nixon became president, he wanted the desk, but Johnson had shipped it down to Texas when he left the White House. So Nixon got the desk back, and this is the same desk that Nixon put the recording device in for the Watergate recordings that he did in 1972. So it's a lot of history to that. And then at that right-hand side drawer, if you could pull it down, the bottom drawer, open it up, just to the left, you can see where the holes were drilled in for the recording machine that President Nixon used in 1972 and was the Watergate tapes. So that is the significance of that. A very beautiful desk. She's going to have a very beautiful office there in the U.S. Capitol. So that's the story.
Well, look, the two things. One, I look forward to seeing her at that desk. I look forward to seeing her on the floor. I look forward to her making deciding votes. I know that you are a Republican, and I know you, too, are going to be proud to see that HBCU graduate make that final decision as it relates to very important votes. I mean, things that people have been waiting for a long time, has the ability, if in fact the Senate moves in the way it should, and if it does tie, and there is an opportunity, she's going to be the one to make that particular last vote that will either put it on the edge or kill it. And that's where she is, because the people of America have spoken and they have put her right there. And I look forward to watching it, spending more time than I've ever spent looking at Senate hearings and Senate votes. I'm going to be focused on making that happen. Brian, I want to say One, thanks for coming on. I know it's your birthday. Happy birthday again to you. It's nothing like seeing the Democrats take over the White House, take over the House of Representatives, taking over the Senate. What a birthday present that you are going to get all month long. And I'm going to continue to remind you that that's where we are. And the good thing about what's going on, you can't find that many black Republicans that want to come on shows. I mean, they are ducking, they're hiding. I mean, I'm trying to call them. They're like, nobody wants to come on unless they got the Trump hat on, and they keep telling us that, that Trump won the election, right? And I don't have time for that, but none of them won't even call me back. I'm like, why don't you come on and tell me why you think Trump? Nope, they're not returning. But you always, the black Republican, Brian Summers, always answers the phone. He always comes on. He always takes this beating when the Democrats win. Who the Democrats? I mean, Brian, y'all didn't win anything. We took both of the seats. Enjoy. We went down south. We went down the south where they used to make us pick cotton, and we went down there and we took a seat, and then the Democrats, and then we took 2 seats, and a black man took one of them. Right? The preacher said, I'm going to stop preaching for a little bit. I'm going to go run for office. Morehouse graduate. Shout out to all those Morehouse folks out there. HBCU again. People said it couldn't be done. He said, no, it could be done. And guess what? We did it. And now the Democrats control everything. I know you're excited, Brian. I know you are, man.
To whom much is given, much is expected. And so I say, cut with the whole shut up and get to govern, and let's see what you do. Delivering on everything. Let's see what happens, because that's where it's at. The deeds in the details, baby. Deeds in the details. Come on. Hey. Your apostles say that. Well, Mr. Chairman, one last thing. Tom Tillis won North Carolina. President Trump won North Carolina. And for me, it was a good night.
Okay. And Democrats got the White House. The Democrats got Congress. And the Democrats got Senate. I got you. I hear you. And I know some other people won somewhere else. All I know is that the Democrats are in control. Hey, so once again, Brian, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. I'm always a pleasure to come over here. I love to come over where you send a car for me, and I come, and I really enjoy it. And it's a real good talk. And you really, I tell you don't have to really compensate me. I come on because, you're my friend, and I really do like you and respect you. So anytime you invite me, I'll always show up and come. And I'll do that favor for you, because I do realize that you've got one of the most popular shows in DC, on Capitol Hill, and around the world. Real talk is real people, and we keep it real.
Oh, no, thank you. See, I was going to say something. It's always a Republican to say, I come on your show for free, right? I mean, it's just the capitalistic mindset of those Republicans. But thanks for coming on. To all of our viewers, you can check us out. Go to YouTube, Always Real Talk YouTube page channel, and click the word subscribe. That's right, click the word subscribe and then notifications. Go to the YouTube channel and subscribe so you can see our show. Check us out on Facebook, Always Real Talk Facebook. And then once again, you can check out the Always Real Talk podcast out. Apple, Spotify, you can go to Google Play, iHeartRadio. We're all there. And if you want to see the show on your phone, all you have to do is text the word show. That's right, text the word show to 202-410-0522. If it's Always Real Talk, you know it's going to be real.